All right, so part two and not live. We're getting all kinds of errors, and so we're going to record this as if we're live. Please still comment and let us know what you feel on certain parts and all that, just as if we were live. I apologize. YouTube does not like gun channels, and apparently they're showing me it, even though I'm such a big channel. Let me tell you, not sure who I pissed off already. I just started this thing, so. All right, so we're talking about first guns and kind of our do's and don'ts on when you purchase your first gun. Uh, and that's kind of where we stopped, I'm assuming. So I guess the next thing is a lot of people, especially when they get a job, they finally get of age. We've had some come in, and 19-year-old Marine was one of them. And he bought a very nice AR, custom built to the T, everything. And it, granted, he was trained and with an AR, stuff of that nature. So it's not like he was buying something he's never touched before. But his first gun, he went full out, ended up having to sell it back to us later on. And another warning, when you get a custom gun, that gun's built for you. When you go to sell it to somebody after that, it's not going to be worth probably what you paid. The only reason why I say that is because the color, everything. Unless you find that person that can love it as much as you, it's hard to sell those custom guns
Mm-hmm.
uh, secondhand. Let's put it that way. Sometimes he went to sell it to us. A customer walked in at that exact moment and literally bought it off of him. I'm assuming because he just told us that never mind, I'm good, and left. And so, like I said, if you find the right person and they want to buy it, perfect. That's the way to go. And then optics, things of that nature. A lot of people will go full all out on red dots and scopes and all these other things. If you don't even know how to shoot the gun, you probably don't want to add all these other areas of error.
My personal recommendation is always getting good with iron sights before you go over to the red dot world or holographics, even getting really deep into those like EOTechs and things of that nature. Uh, my own personal first AR build, I made that same mistake on. I went way high on the prices and the optics and everything. All the attachments on the gun are worth more than what I paid for the initial rifle to begin with. So and I did break the bank account and was pretty irresponsible a couple of different times. But hey, sue me. I was 23. I don't know what you want from me.
So be careful on that kind of stuff. I mean, I have actually seen iron sights break, amazingly enough, but the chances are so rare. I mean, I've seen it once. So
Typically,
it's,
that and your most expensive iron sights are going to be like $250 range. So
oh yeah. And then we can go into optics. That could be $3,000. But
yeah,
caliber wise, we kind of hit on that. Uh, and when it comes to rifle side, I love the 5.56. It's a great varmint round, but power wise, it doesn't have much recoil. It's not. It's kind of like the 22 rifles in a lot of ways in the AR world, even though now they make 22 ARs as well. But I like it just because it's easy to find. The ammo's not expensive. You have enough recoil to where you're feeling it, so you can kind of get used to controlling it and everything else before you go into your bigger calibers. Like you get an AR-10 or a hunting rifle that has a lot of kick. You want to kind of work up to that. You know yourself better than anybody else. If you're too nervous, go smaller. If you are confident because you've shot with your granddad growing up as a kid or something like that, it's just been 15 years, fine. Go get 30-06, whatever you like. But uh, don't go to these tiny little guns. I'm going to throw that one out there.
mm-hmm.
Almost every new shooter comes in and they see the tiny little pocket pistols. I don't care if it is only a 22. Those suck. You feel everything. They jump around everywhere. You can't hit the broadside of a barn with them. I mean, if you're past 10 feet, you're not really going to hit where you want to hit. So,
And they're jammy,
yes,
very
and
jammy.
because they hop, especially the semi-autos, and they're just not fun to shoot. I mean, if you're going to learn something, you want to have fun doing it. But let's go. I did some research. We are going to be starting to teach some beginner courses. And so been doing a lot more research on different sites that you can go to. So what I basically did, let me switch over here. I did a beginner shooting kind of search in the Google side. And one of my favorite ones I found, Pew Pew Tactical. If you're watching this channel, I'm pretty sure you probably heard of that channel as well, or that person. But they do a really good job of breaking down a lot of different trainings that you can do, all the way up to how guns work, to showing you different videos on it, bullet guide, size, calibers, everything, talking to your kids. And one thing you will notice, 90% of all trainings always start with gun safety. That if you can't get to be safe with the firearm, then it's pointless. Like, that's where you start, especially if you're teaching somebody else. That is always the first thing. One thing I did like though is, I mean, they go all the way to not just, the fundamentals of teaching what a firearm is and the different types. They go all the way down to how to shoot the gun, to how to shoot the gun better. They even hit competition shooting, concealed carrying. So Pew Pew, a shout out to them. He did a good job on his site here. NRA also has some safety courses. They do a lot of safety training um, of different sorts, and they kind of break it down to different areas. So if you want to do pistol course and everything else, this is more finding one near you. I know they do have a lot of online training you can do as well, especially if you join the NRA. And something that we're joining right now, we're in the process of, is the USCCA. That way, you're also gets a good insurance behind your back. But they have huge amounts of training, and we're going to go through their instructor program. But even just on their site, without, I'm not logged in or anything like that. This is the same thing you're going to be seeing. That's an area I never thought of. Weightlifting for gun training. Some of these guns are freaking heavy, and especially if you're a young child and you're just wanting to learn and be more safe. There are certain guns out there that are nice and light, but if you want to shoot the bigger calibers, they're heavy. And if you want to operate it, safely, it's kind of important to be able to lift it easily enough to where you can aim where you're not shaking, like you're having a seizure or something. So that is an important area to go into as well.
I think the physical fitness side of things is highly important on all realms of shooting, especially if you're looking at a defensive situation too, because realistically, your adrenaline's going to dump. You're going to have huge amounts of, dexterity loss in your finger, and multiple other things. You got to be fit and ready to defend yourself in that situation. And I think fitness is huge.
Oh yeah. And it was just one of those things I never thought about, like lifting up a firearm. You wouldn't think too hard, but then again, I held your 308. It can be. So dry fire practice. That's an area where a lot of people cringe because you're going to bust your weapon and all this stuff. Now they do have dummy rounds and other types of systems out there. I think you can go too far into the weeds, spending all kinds of money on something that you didn't really need to. Dry firing your guns. If dry firing your gun is going to break it, rim fire is one area where that is kind of an iffy area. Truth be told, the part that would break is like a $5 part, $5 to $10. So it's not, and it's going to take a lot to break it. Rim fire, because their firing pin is not the same as others, questionable. I've never had an issue with it, but I also fix them and build them all the time. So it's a little different in that sense. If I do actually break something, I've yet to break one of any firearm actually that I've dry fired. But there are some out there, older guns mainly is your big one. Nowadays, dry fire practice is taught to do so much that even manufacturers, they don't want their guns breaking. It makes them look bad. This market is flooded. Like, they look bad, they go under. That's pretty much how it works. So Most guns, now you're good.
I've always been of the personal doctrine that if your gun's going to break from dry firing it, you got the wrong gun.
Yeah, there is that. Like, you need to practice. The best way to practice is dry fire, work on your trigger pull, things of that nature. This
It's
was a
free.
new one, Pro Shots, and it's free. You don't have to buy ammo. 5 essential tips for beginning to learn how to shoot. I haven't looked heavily into this. This was kind of a quick, I saw it. But the way they put the stuff together, again, firearm safety right at the start, beginning with basics and practice regularly, seek professional instruction. I always recommend that, even if it is a family member. Use your best judgment, because I've met some people, many in our store, that talk about they know this, and that, and about firearms. They've been doing it forever, and right there in the store, watch them break about 5 safety rules or point a gun at me to the point where I have to take it away from them because they're scaring the crap out of me. Stuff like that. So find the right people. If you live in a more red state, I guess would be the best way to put it, more firearm friendly state, they're easier to find in your family or friends.
Sorry, California.
Yeah. But I always recommend, and even me personally, even with the training I have already got, Donnie's the same way I am. If there's a professional he's to teach me something, sweet. I don't care if I've done that course. I don't care if somebody puts me through a beginner course again. I'll go with you, because you can always learn a new technique or something new out there. It's ever changing. There's always a better way.
Somebody might teach you what not to do. So
Yes, very much. Um, yeah. There is something to be said about playing dumb. I did it quite a bit, and if any of my people that knew me in the military, throwing this out there, many times I knew exactly what was going on and what we were learning. I played dumb. I tended to learn more that way a lot of times. So there is something to be said about it. Now, if you're the one teaching the class, don't play dumb. You probably need to have a little bit of confidence behind you. If you don't have that confidence, you shouldn't be teaching it.
unfortunately for me, I wasn't playing more times than I like to admit. So
So training programs, there's a lot out there. Ammo is another one. If you're wanting to use some old school gun that was a hand me down and that's what you want to train on, ammo can get very expensive or hard to get, and that's the last thing you want when you're training. Uh, for example, me and my kid, just for our rimfire competitions and just 1 or 2 practices a month, and we don't even shoot that much during those practices, we go through well over 1,000 rounds a month. When somebody new in the gun world, you have 1,000 rounds of something that sounds like a lot. But when you're just shooting and you go through 150, 200 rounds in like 10 minutes and you're there for, 45 minutes, it's not really that long. You go through that ammo really fast. So make sure 9mm, like what your first one was, don't do 45. That was kind of pricey. Luckily, law enforcement program bought my ammo, but um, 9's a really good one. 22 is an excellent one. 380, very similar to 9. I want to say sometimes it's actually more expensive than 9, even though it's a smaller round. So you probably want to watch it on that one. Beyond that, they all start going up from there. 10 is starting to come down because more and more people are using it. 40 is starting to go up because 40s are starting to become a thing of the past. So 5.56 still cheap because enough companies make it, but 308s, things like that, enough companies make it, but 6.5 Creedmoor's taking over on that area. So it could be changing a little bit. It's when you go into a store, go look at their ammo rack before you pick the gun, or do some research online. We order guns for people all the time because they're looking for something. They talk about how no store has it. We'll hop online, check our distributors, put it on our wish list, whatever, and try to get it to you that way. That's something that we do. Most gun stores probably do that too. So make sure you find somebody that's willing to take the time to work with you. The biggest groups right now, I mean, I have a lot of new kid shooters that come in. Women is another one. There's a lot, and I hear horror stories on that one of being treated kind of crappy as soon as you walk into a gun store just because you don't know that much. And I've even been treated that way.
Oh yeah.
Um, it's that's not a place you want to go because as soon as you do get to talk to somebody, they're probably just you're gonna do this, and that.
And then they're gonna sell you their favorite gun.
Yeah, they know best. Well, every gun person out there knows best, and good luck having them agree with each other. So take your time. Don't rush into it. Don't think you're forced into it. Go somewhere. Make sure you can hold the guns. Which one is actually comfortable for you? Rack that slide. Talk to the person behind the counter before you try to dry fire or anything like that. For us, depending on the gun, 90% of the guns we're okay with it as long as you're not just sitting there clicking the living crap out of it. Because it is a new gun.
Yeah.
And when you buy a new gun, you want it to be new. So beating up the firearm is not the best way to go, even though we still wonder if that actually is beating up much. But
Be courteous and use common
it's
sense.
more of a courteous, common sense side. Don't be afraid, at least with us, I know, don't be afraid to say that you're new. That helps us to help you find what you want. I mean, there's a want and a need side balance in there, and that kind of helps us guide you, I guess is the best way to put it.
Finding someone who's passionate about what they're talking to you about is deeply important, and I think that's going to be where you find the level of care as a new shooter that you need versus going into a company, you know, that's got kind of that chip on their shoulder or ego or whatever have you going on in that industry where, you know, it's like, I'm going to sell you my favorite gun and this is the gun to be beaten all guns, and I say so and I know best because I'm the gun store guy. And I think that's a very foolish mentality to take into work every day where, you know, I don't sell guns off of what the name brand is because nobody pays me to sell their gun. You know, SIG doesn't give me that beautiful paycheck that I'd like to see, and neither does FN.
You make the same either way with or without the sale.
Yeah, and that's my favorite part about the job is I get to sell guns off of what they do for the shooter who's handling it versus, you know, oh well, you know, SIG gave us this nice little kickback and we're going to sell more of their guns because of it, or, you know, Glock is the only way to go because reason XYZ. And yeah, skip on those guys. Find somebody who's passionate.
That's kind of funny. Like, we don't get any of those. Small local shops are not the same as Sportsman's and things of that
No.
nature. So yeah, I don't think Sportsman's is gonna be around much longer. Throwing that out there. I don't know.
Buy local.
Yeah, I mean, just stick with the local guys. I went shopping at Sportsman's. I'm guilty of it because we don't sell kayaks. Just throwing that out there. But walking through there, it was like a ghost town. Like, I've noticed a lot of these big stores are starting to go down, and I think that's a big reason. Like, you talk to their associates and you spend more time teaching them than anything else. Like me, I'm not going to know everything. I'm still, I mean, if you read my bio, I retired from the military. That's where my background mainly comes from, is the military firearms side. And so working at where we work, if it wasn't for our manager that worked there, that is working with us, he's a walking encyclopedia of guns.
Yeah.
Like, it's, you start to describe the gun and all of a sudden, boom, he's telling you exactly when it was made and where and caliber and everything else. And if you're watching this, I'm not kidding, their manager guy, I won't throw your name out there. It's, go where you're comfortable. I mean, if you're not comfortable, some of it is kind of getting past the comfort side. Don't get me wrong. When you're about to pull the trigger, you're probably not very comfortable. But if somebody isn't treating you good, there is so many stores. Like we talked about, how I mentioned the market's flooded. Like, there's a lot of places where you can go.
I think Pocatello alone has what, 5 or 6 different gun shops.
It used to. ATF closed one.
That good old AFT.
Not crossing T's and dotting I's type stuff on why they're closed. Just so we're clear, it wasn't actual bad stuff.
They got out of business, unfortunately.
We've got one, Us, two, three, I think local store wise, we got 4 total, including us on that. So, and Pocatello is not very big. You go to a place like Boise,
Oh wow, yeah,
there's a lot. So there's always an option. There's always a way. Go that route. That's the biggest thing. If you can't find somebody that makes you feel comfortable, teaching you the basics, actually going through safety, not just throwing a 500 Smith and Wesson in your hand revolver type thing. I've watched. If you go search YouTube, you'll find a lot of people doing that to people. Don't. With my kid, I started with 22s purposely. If you wanted to try something, I let him try it. He let me know if he wanted to shoot more. And that's been with all my kids. I don't force anything in their hand. I don't put something that's going to make them go flying and laugh at them as they go flying. If you develop a fear, you are more dangerous that way too. Because then you're shaking, you're not thinking straight, stuff of that nature. And this is a fun sport. Why ruin it for somebody?
Mm-hmm.
So take the time that's needed. I think we kind of hit on that a lot. I don't know. Anything else you want to add? Because it's not an hour and a half this time, so that's good. So I think we're going to be about an hour only, so we're doing better overall. If you add this with the live stream,
I did bring some good little first options to start off with.
Let's do that. Give me 1 second. I'll switch the camera over. There you go.
Getting yourself in your first gun department. This one's a little rusty and dusty because I carry it every day, but this is my own little personal defense, little SIG P365. They're good enough firearms. Having the money again, there's probably better stuff on the market now. I did like this gun enough to eventually go ahead and buy my wife one, and she carries hers daily as well. So versatility wise, nice little subcompact like this, you may get probably more use out of than your first AR-15 or your first full-sized carry gun. This is something that can be hidden under clothing, or this one's small enough you could probably stick it in a pocket. So if you were to go that route on your first gun, that's never a bad option, just because of the amount of versatility and ability to do multiple different things with it, because this is a 9mm and you'd be able to train with it regularly. And I highly recommend training with your everyday carry gun plenty, because that's kind of the whole purpose of that gun is, prepare for the worst day of your life kind of deal.
I agree.
For something you'll probably see again later on, this is kind of my own little home defense setup. It is a pistol caliber carbine. This is an LWRC SMG2. They are very pricey. It's not something I would necessarily recommend for the first gun, but it's a good example of something you could do for your first gun, because it is small, it is light, it gives you 3 points of contact to train with. Makes it much more manageable to handle something like that 45 ACP round Chris was talking about earlier, which is what this is chambered in. Good option, heavy on the price point, but a lot of versatility out of this one too, it being a home defense gun. And then, if you're getting into your first AR build.
Do you want me to switch cameras?
Yeah, let's switch cameras for this one.
Maybe, if it lets me.
Just show the chambers clear on this. It is not outside of the question to, start with a little cheapy AR. This started off as a Spikes tactical build that eventually I've replaced all of the inner and parts to, and added attachments as I went. Eventually got myself a different charging handle, the Radian Raptor, attached some EOTechs up there, which are very spendy. Nice little Odin Mini from Olight. I do recommend having a flashlight on just about any gun you can stick it on, especially if you're running it in a personal defense setting. Target identification is huge.
Hint to future episode again.
Yeah, that will be another video that we show off more of that kind of stuff on. But don't be afraid to go cheap on your first build, because especially in the AR world, there are so many options out there that get what you can afford, get what your bank account can agree with you on and not hate you over. And, get out there and train, because the most important gun in the world is the one that you can shoot regularly.
Oh yeah. Oh, like that Diamondback that we have, what, $650?
Yeah,
I
that
think
would be
is
a
what it
phenomenal
is.
option.
You can tell the difference between that and like one of our custom builds, like smoothness wise, but it's a basic AR that if you don't like something as you're training, you'll learn what your likes and dislikes aren't. Boom, you can change it. Like, and if you don't feel confident to do it yourself, bring it into a place like us. We can do it. I mean, ARs are not the most difficult out there.
Easy
Once
day.
you figure out how they work and function, stuff like that, it makes sense. Like they are, I mean, they were built for the military. I mean, I almost said just for the Marines on that one.
You're not wrong there. So
another option is this right here is actually a Ruger 1022. That's another gun that if you want to change it, you can, and they are cheap. We're talking $300. And this one has got your standard AR stock. This barrel, even though it looks like a heavy bull barrel, is not even carbon fiber, it's plastic. But this is one I'm teaching my kid how to do more the shoot moves, standing and shooting, stuff like that, because it weighs nothing. It's a 22, so there's not much recoil whatsoever, if you can even feel it really. And it's also a 1022, where the same mags he uses for his competition shoots and all that stuff can be popped into here. It's got an extended lever on here. So somebody tried to fancy this up. This was a gift I received. As you can tell, the beaver tail grip, I don't know if you guys can actually see that, is kind of sticking out. So kind of looks a little jerry-rigged a little bit there, but it works. And it actually functions great. It shoots pretty accurate. We did have a little scope on here that we used to test it out and took that off. We're using that on something else. That's another thing. Anything with this type of rail, I mean, it makes it whatever you want. There's stuff out there, but this is a good way, even as an adult or anything like that. I mean, it adjusts. I can shoot this just as well as a little kid can. So, great way to practice without getting a divorce or anything of that nature. So, just there's so many options. That's the great part. Don't be afraid to try something. Ask for help. Like, if you're new to, I mean, you want to go buy your first car. Yeah, there's those pretty eye candy type cars that look cool and everything else. And I guess in high school, that was kind of important maybe. When you become an adult, it's not so much. And if you're buying one of these, you're probably an adult. So it's more about getting what fits you, what you feel comfortable behind. That's the key. And what you can be safe with by doing that. And I'm going to step off to the side here and put this back up.
Oh no, you're leaving me alone. Me unsupervised is a bad idea.
All right. Yeah, I think that kind of, and I just tapped the mic, so I apologize for that. I forgot it was there. But I think that sums up this half live broadcast, because we some reason got kicked off YouTube. Might have been a gun thing, might not be. I have no idea. I'll check my emails later, I guess, and find out if I'm already being kicked off. And
Prisoner 762 did a bad thing.
I thought that would be more for people that were a lot bigger and channels in this, but I guess not. And yeah, so tune in next week. I'll send out a notice of what we're going to talk about. Like I said, 3 or 4 will be self-defense. We might wait a little bit because we're building some guns right now that they're just really cool and kind of want to show them off anyways. So
those are going to be fun.
Yeah, and they're a good concept, good idea. That isn't, I mean, they're not cheap, but
cheaper than my build.
That's true, but that doesn't say that much. But might be a good way to do the home defense if you're scared of the handgun side or just don't feel comfortable in that area. So, but yeah, please, I know we're not live. Leave some comments, opinions, advice, things of that nature. Of course, I always would hope you kind of keep it cordial. Don't make fun of us too much, all right? We are sensitive people. But
Him, not me.
you were crying just a minute ago.
We
Anyways,
don't talk about that.
yeah, we'll see you next week. I should be posting a video here soon of an unboxing of a fun little tool I just got. Speaking of firearm stuff, it took a really long time after paying for it to get, but it finally showed up this week, so I'll do an unboxing video of that. And if I already got kicked off, then for this one, I probably can't do much of a video on it, but we'll go from there. And yeah, I appreciate you guys stopping by. I appreciate you guys watching us. It does mean a lot to me. I'm hoping to grow the channel, especially before I head off to SHOT Show. Maybe do some live videos there, interviewing people, talking to different people in the industry. There's a lot of cool people there, that's for sure. But yeah, we'll go from there.
See you guys next week.
All right. Bye.